Welcome back to Off the Docks. Today we're talking about Moon Knight. I got Andre here from my work. He is an outsider to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's not a diehard fan, so we're gonna get a an average fan's perspective. And of course, I have Cameron.
Yeah,
I got Cameron here with me, who's always fucking here.
so that means his opinions are wrong. No.
No, his opinions aren't wrong. He just has less insider knowledge than we do. Hey, you know what? According to the internet, my opinions are wrong too. So I've gotten hate comments.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I see you fuckers down there.
All my sources came from TikTok.
So the series finale just happened. Cameron, how do you feel about the show?
I mean, the show overall, I fucking loved it. I thought it was really great. I didn't really know what to expect from it because, like, I knew about Moon Knight and I knew some things about the character, but I didn't really know what to expect for their version. One thing that I actually do enjoy about the whole show and kind of glad they did is that it feels separate from the whole MCU. And like, if you're a beginner and you don't watch the Marvel movies, you could totally watch this show and not be lost at all. And that's what one of the elements that I really loved about it. So overall, I do think the show was fucking great. I think the way they handled the DID situation was actually very well handled and very tasteful. Um, Oscar Isaac's acting fucking brilliant, especially in the penultimate episode, episode 5. That was such a good fucking episode, dude.
Agreed. Dude, episode
Yeah,
5.
yeah, dude.
I watched a bunch of people's reactions. I said this in my review, but
Yeah, me
I
too.
went and watched a bunch of reactions after that episode came out because I wanted to see everybody else cry.
Yeah, it was so sad, but it was so good. I do that all the time. Every time I see like a movie or show, I'm like, I have to see other people's reactions to it because I just want to know that I'm validated. No, the finale as a whole, though, it was cool. There was a lot of cool stuff in it. I personally feel a bit unsatisfied, especially if the rumors are true and this show isn't getting a second season. I kind of felt like the ending was very rushed. I wasn't too interested in Ahmet when she showed up. She kind of just felt like a giant monster, and you don't get to know much about her in the scenes that she has because most of her scenes are just her fighting, and you don't get to know much of like her backstory or her reasoning as to why like Harrow gives us an explanation early on in the show, but that's more towards his character. I wanted to know more about Ahmet and what got her imprisoned in the first place and what she was doing back then. I wanted to know more about her motivations, and I did she fell flat for me. She was cool, like the animation for her was really cool. She looked great. And the fight between her and Khonshu was actually dope as hell, but her as a character, I was not impressed. Um yeah, so that element I wasn't too happy with. I felt that this whole show, Mark Spector has been killing everybody and bodying everybody, except for apparently he draws a line at kids. And then of course at the end he has to be the hero and not kill the bad guy. It's like, okay, don't kill the main, but like it's fine if they had built up to that, but it didn't really feel validated when he did that at the end, in my opinion. And then it just ends. like like there's not much after that. Like I would have liked this to be 2 episodes maybe. Because I really wanted to see like what happens. You should see like Mark and Steven in their normal everyday life at least a little bit, but you kind of just get that one scene where they're tied to the bed and then that's it other than the post credit scene. So, yeah. I just felt that the whole episode and the whole ending was a bit rushed, which I feel like has become kind of a pattern within some of these shows because it seems like Marvel only gives them a 6 episode run, and so they have to try and fit everything they want to in the finale in the last episode. And it sometimes it works. Like I think it worked for Loki, but I don't think it worked for this. Um, yeah, I'm interested in seeing if Moon Knight shows up in any other movies or shows if he's not getting a season 2, which I don't know. To me, it seems like they were leading for a season 2, even though it's kind of been talked about. Even I think Oscar Isaacs recently said that they're not planning a season 2, which I find unfortunate. But oh well.
So I've already shared my opinion on basically this whole show. I'll pass the microphone to Andre. Andre,
Yes.
you are
Yes, sir.
not a diehard Marvel fan who's seen everything they've ever made.
Mhm.
So, what did you think of this show? Going in blind, not knowing anything about the character, what did you think?
I actually liked the show a lot. Um, I was actually ranking the shows that Disney, like the Marvel, like on the Disney Plus, like how they made, like Loki, like the Falcon with the like Winter Soldier, anything like WandaVision, Hawkeye. I was ranking them up. I actually put Moon Knight as my top one. Not gonna lie, as my opinion. And then I put second Loki because like I don't know, kind of had a mixed feeling about those two shows. But anyways, we're on to Moon Knight. The finale, it was alright. It was okay. They could have actually put more about Jake in the show. I know it's like everything is all rushed because that's how Disney does it to all 6 episodes from like different shows. They just rush everything. Uh, but yeah, they could have put Jake into the show more, or at least at the end, like the finale, just a little bit more. The post credit scenes just it was okay. Jake is the coldest, probably like the coldest dude out of the two. Um, Layla, Layla's pretty badass, man. The costume, badass. Girl kicking ass. The wings, man. Girl could fly. I think. Can she fly?
Yeah, she
I
flew
forgot.
in the episode and then she kicked
Arthur, right? Yeah,
Arthur. She like drop
yeah,
kicked Arthur. She flew off the rooftop and saved Marc.
yeah. I'm kind of like everywhere, but whatever. But I was I watched your spoiler video. You saying that maybe Layla, like we don't know what to do to with Layla to if we have a next season or a movie because we weren't expecting her to be an avatar of one of the gods, right?
Yeah.
So Layla herself said that she's Tawar is just her temporary like a god, like an avatar. So yeah, just that clip, pretty good. Fight scenes, they're alright. Yeah, they're pretty good. The cinematic stuff, all that, pretty dope, man. Freaking, what's called Mark when he flew up on the sky, it kind of looked like an eclipse, but not really, because it's a moon and not like with the sun and all that. But it's pretty badass, man. Yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually agree a lot with what both of you said. It definitely was really rushed. And I said in my spoiler review that's a lot shorter than this. My biggest issue with the finale is that we didn't get to see Jake until the after credit scene. And
Yeah.
if the show does not get a season
Well,
2, it means that we
yeah.
will not see Jake be fleshed out in the way that Steven was. We're not going to know why Jake
Yeah.
exists. We're not going to know why Mark created Jake. We're not going to know why Jake doesn't like Mark or why Jake is hiding from Mark. We're not going to know anything. And that is a
Yeah,
big problem for me because the likelihood that the movies are going to have time to explain that while also explaining who he is to the other heroes is very slim. I really don't think they're going to
yeah.
go far into his backstory in any other properties, which means that
I'm kind of torn
he'll
on it
never
though.
get the full treatment that Steven got.
Yeah. If you do put Jake in this season, then it's gonna be too bloated. Like there's no room. Like I'm glad they focused on developing Steven and Mark, but I agree that if they knew they weren't gonna have a season two, then I don't know what their plan is for Jake because yeah, I don't. I want to see more. I want to see like an explanation of how he was created. I want to see like why neither of them know about him. I want to see all that, but like you said, I don't see them being able to flesh that out in another movie. Maybe he gets his own movie instead of a show. It's a slim chance, but I guess it's a possibility. Um, yeah,
Mm.
I don't know what their plan is if they really want to flesh out Jake Lockley. I mean, they're going to. There's no way they have that cliffhanger and then don't explain it in the future. I'm just kind of curious as to where and when that's gonna be.
Well, I definitely think we're going to see Jake again. Whenever we see Mark again, I'm pretty sure we're gonna see Jake.
Yeah.
But I don't expect them to make time in whatever movie he shows up in to explain Jake's origin. Because
Well,
we
see,
got
if
the
he
whole
shows
show
up as an Avenger, then he has to like right now. Steven and Mark believe that Conchu's gone and that they don't have the power anymore,
exactly.
which they still do, obviously. But if they become Moon Knight again, then they're gonna have to figure it out. So that's the point where I'm like, okay, when is that gonna be? Because you can't just have him show up again and not explain that. You
To
have
be
to get
to
that
be
part out of the way
100%
first.
honest, dude, I hate to say it, but I really think that's how they'll handle it. If we're not getting
No,
any more
I don't
solo
think so
Moon
at
Knight,
all.
I think that they're gonna use him switching personalities all the time as like a laughing point for the movies because
Who,
how
Jake?
the other Avengers will be reacting to him talking to himself or changing accents or talking to a god that's not there. But I don't think they're gonna spend time explaining that because only the people who watched the show will know why they have to stop and explain who Jake is, and the people who aren't interested would be upset because they're wasting time in the movie for a plot line that has to involve the show. And I think
Well,
that
it
that's
all
the
really
biggest
depends
issue is
on where he shows up.
they've dug themselves in this hole and they're either going to dig themselves deeper and never explain it or they're going to half-ass crawl out of it and have to rush the Jake Lockley explanation so that they can put him in the movies full time.
They have a plan. Like, there's no way they just don't have. If they're gonna put him in more stuff, this could just be a one and done. And maybe they'll use him in the future, but they don't have any plans for him yet. But I don't really. That's not really how they do stuff, especially with a character like this, where I don't know. I don't think they give him his own whole show after three big shows that are characters we've already known, and they're not going to use him. So they're definitely going to use him later. I just don't think they're not gonna just straight up ignore anything that happened at the end of the show. They're gonna have to explain it. But yeah, without a season two, I'm not sure how they plan on that. I don't think he's just gonna become a joke character. I think they'll maybe use it for humor a couple of times, but that's not gonna be what they rely on him for.
Well, no, I'm not saying he's going to be only a comedy piece. I'm just saying that I think that most likely that is how they'll use the constant switching of the personalities at first. To kind
Hmm.
of get the audience to like him, is he'll be like this really charismatic personality swapping character that has all these different costumes and powers, and but
Sure.
I don't think that they're going to spend long enough for the Jake Lockley explanation to be as satisfactory as the Steven one was.
I
Maybe.
mean, you might be right.
What do you think, Andre?
So this is what I because you know how like I watched your video saying that there's a slight chance that Jake maybe would not appear in the movies, or just a little bit of it he'll be appearing into the movie. But I was thinking this because when I first watched like the first episode, I thought Steven was the main character. So throughout the throughout this whole entire season, it was kind of like all about like Steven's story, but
Right.
we know that it's Mark is the main one. So I was thinking maybe
Exactly.
they might do that in the movie. Like at least half of it in the movie is probably like Jake's story. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because they can't just put
Like focus
Jake,
more on Jake than the other two.
yeah, because they can't just put Jake at the end and then not really focus on him on the movie
Yeah.
just like that.
I can see that. That's one of the cool things about like the fact that you didn't know the character or the comics is that yeah, like most people who don't know this character are gonna assume that Steven's the main one and Mark is the like the out of like the weird one in the group, and it's but no, that's how it is. Mark is the main body and
Yeah.
Steven's the other
Yeah.
personality. So that's what I really like that idea that they use.
Yeah, I really like the way that they handled Steven in this show, which is that honestly is the main reason that I'm worried about how they handle the character moving forward.
Hmm.
Because I think the majority of people who watch this show, the thing they're going to remember, the thing that made them care about the show, is the relationship between Mark and Steven. If we see the character
Yeah.
again, that's what people are looking for. They're going to be looking for Mark and Steven. That's what they love about the show. And of
True.
course,
Well,
everyone
it just
wants to know
depends
about Jake
on.
Lockley. We want to know Jake Lockley. We want to see him. We want to see him do shit. But I don't think that they'll focus on Jake moving forward if he only shows up as a cameo appearance from now on. Like if he's gonna be a side
Well,
character,
it
kind of
just
like the Hulk
depends
is.
on how much.
My theory is that moving forward, if he does appear in the movies often, I think they'll use him like they use the Hulk, where he's a major player in the universe, but he never gets his own movie, but he's always around. You
Hmm.
know, he always shows up, he always helps, he's always useful, but
Yeah,
he's not
I guess you could.
the
Yeah.
main star. Unless we do end up getting a Midnight Suns film, in which case he would be like a major player,
Oh,
which I
I
still
didn't
think
think
is a
about
big
that.
possibility because they already set up Black Knight and Blade, and we know that they're making a Blade movie.
Mm.
So
And
we
he like
could
it
see,
seems like Blade's recruiting Black Knight.
yeah. So we could see the actual Midnight Suns team up on screen.
I didn't even
Um,
think of it. You know what? I'll probably bet money that that's where he's showing up next.
if I had to say he's gonna appear anywhere immediately, I think it's gonna be Thor. Um, if not, it will be
Um,
one of the movies far later because I definitely don't think it'll
I'm
be in
gonna
like Black
say
Panther. Um,
I'm gonna say he's not in anything they're working on right now. I mean, maybe development wise, but not anything they've filmed. I don't think he's in any of it, like Thor, Doctor Strange,
Yeah, because
like you said, Black Panther.
that would have been too rushed, no? Because the show just came in, and
well,
if
Yeah, like
the
they
way
don't
that
know the
Marvel plans
response
a
to
lot
that
of their
character yet.
stuff is usually in tandem with each other. Like they filmed Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange back to back. Um,
Yeah,
so I would not be
they'll do stuff
entirely
like that.
surprised if we saw Moon Knight soon. I'm not betting on it.
I just,
I just think
yeah, I'm just not
if we
betting on
see
it.
him within the next year or two in a movie, I think Thor is the most likely because we're dealing with a character who's butchering the gods, and Moon Knight's power comes from the gods. So I think that that's a likely one if he
Oh,
shows up. I don't think he will, but if he does, that would be cool.
that would be a badass movie.
But I think that they'll save it, and then maybe the Blade after credit scene will be Marc coming to him for something, or him
Yeah.
going to Marc. But
It could be.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Like I said, my biggest issue with the finale is if we don't get more Marc focused projects after this,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like the finale because it leaves a lot of things very open. The idea that they set up Layla and then now we probably won't get her character fleshed out anymore. They set up Jake. We probably
Yeah.
won't see too much story for him. I'm sure we'll see a little bit and they'll address it, but I don't think we'll get too much for him like we did with Steven. We got a whole show explaining who he is, why he's there, what he does, what he's for. Um
Right.
but I don't think we're going to get that level of treatment for Jake, and that kind of upsets me. I was also kind of sad that it I really wish they had shown the transition to Jake during the fight, because my biggest issue was that I wish that we could have seen that. As cool as the after credit scene was, I felt kind of cheapened that we didn't get to see him beat Arthur. After all the build up for the fight, he doesn't beat Arthur, Jake does, and Jake beats him off screen.
I was
So
fine
we
with them
got all
cutting
of
away because I like them hiding Jake for now. Like I like again, if there is a season 2, it makes more sense because then that's gonna be a big conflict for season 2. And I like the way they built that up. But like you said, if they never flesh Jake out, then yeah, I find it a problem. But I don't know. I was fine with them cutting away from the fight, but it is part of the problem where I was like, yeah, it feels rushed where that happens and then everything just goes fine. They do a spell and then it's over.
yeah. My biggest issue with it was just the way that they handled it, because the episode is so rushed. You're watching them
Mm-hmm.
fight and then you're like, oh, like, maybe he's gonna use some new power we haven't seen yet, and that's how he's gonna get out from under him, or maybe Layla's gonna break free and save him or whatever. And then Arthur gets
Yeah.
defeated off camera, which
Yeah.
it was a letdown for me because they just had this sick ass fight sequence this whole time that was building up, building up, building up, and then they didn't show him be defeated. They cut away from it, which I
Yeah.
loved that effect during the show, but at that moment I felt that it cheapened their victory.
I agree with that.
I think it would have been more interesting if you see Mark be the one to beat him, and then when he refuses to kill him, Jake steps in, kills him, and then he's like, "What the hell just happened?" I think that would have been more interesting.
Yeah, like if they had been arguing when he's holding the crescent dart to his throat and then he
Yeah,
stops, if they had done the blackout sequence where the lights flicker like that and then he came back and Arthur was
and
dead,
then he's dead.
that
Yeah,
that would have been better to me. But the way that they
yeah,
handled it, it makes it seem like it almost, I know it's not the case, but it feels like they didn't have an idea for how to end the fight. So it just kind
yeah.
of
I get what
flickers
you
and
mean.
then
It
the
kind of
fight's
feels
over.
like they were
Like,
like, Jake.
yeah, it
Yeah.
felt like they were just like, ooh, Mark's gonna die, psych, and then now the fight's over. There was
Well,
no
that's the whole
payoff.
I mean, that's kind of like the whole
that
point of the
was the
show, though.
whole last 10 minutes to me. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
Because what is it called? Mark was getting his ass beat by Arthur, right? But then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, a personality switch. I mean, that thing kind of happened like throughout the, like, I think it was like episode 2 or 3, where like Steven was in a fight, but you know how like he can't defend himself, and then all of a sudden he'll have that split personality change, and then boom, everyone is like on the ground dead.
Right.
So I guess it kind of did that same way of a tease for Jake on this last episode. So
I mean, it's not like it didn't. It came out of nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
but
didn't hate it, but it felt like, I don't know. Like I said, it just it to me it felt like it cheapened Mark's victory over Arthur. Like we watched the whole show be him and
yeah,
Steven versus Arthur, and then Arthur gets defeated off camera and they don't even know how he lost. And that
yeah.
to me
I
is
do agree with
underwhelming.
that. Where, yeah, I kind of felt that way about the whole last like 10 minutes because it's like this whole big fight's happening at the end, and then Jake steps in, everything's like taken care of. Then they easily trap Amit. I thought they were gonna have at least some kind of trouble actually in capturing Amit in his body, but no, they know the spell somehow, and they do the spell, and it works. And then he's in this white room again, and then he's at home, and it's just like, okay, that I had whiplash watching like the last 10 minutes
Yeah,
because it was
yeah.
like, what the fuck is happening? What the fuck is happening? It's done now. Like, I was like, why? For one, why did he go back to that white room? Was that symbolic or was that actually happening? You don't get any explanation for that. And then he's in bed like it's the beginning of the first episode again. I'm pretty sure he's in the same clothes. He's tied up to the bed again, and
Yeah,
it's just like,
so
what just happened?
I talked about that in my spoiler review. One of the things that I liked but didn't like but I didn't like it for the same reason you didn't like it, because it's so rushed. But I liked
Yeah,
it because they gave you two fake out endings.
yeah,
When you think he's been released, he's in the hospital and then he acts like he's gonna leave. Like he's been in the
yeah,
hospital the whole time. And then you're like, "What?"
yeah,
And then he wakes up in the bed from episode 1 with the same alarm clock song,
yeah.
and he's
And
in
it's
the same clothes, and he has the ankle restraint on even though him and Mark are in the same body and that they've made peace with each other. And so
yeah,
it's like
and they have
it
two
was so
fish now.
jarring
Like,
that you stop and you go, "Oh shit, like which of
does
what
that
is
mean
happening?"
Jake
And then
brought them back to the house?
I think that they brought them back to the house, and the reason that he had the ankle restraints on like he used to is because Jake is taking over and they don't know where the body's going, and they're
Mm,
trying to keep track of when they're blacking out, just like Steven was doing at the beginning of the show. He had the sand around the bed and the tape on the doors, and that way he would know if he
yeah,
left in his
but
sleep.
it feels like that was like immediately after they were released. Like they just showed up in bed, like immediately after. So it's like, is that like a time jump, or is that like happening immediately after he gets released from Khonshu? Because it's just like, yeah, they fake you out as like, oh, this was the real reality the whole time. Then you realize, no, it's not. You don't get an explanation as to what it is, but you know it's not the real thing going on. And then he's just in bed, and it goes by so quick. I have no idea what's happening.
Yeah, I agree. It's like too fast. If they had taken their time with it, it would have been so much better. I said
Yeah,
in my review that this show didn't need to be much longer, but I think if it had been like 8
no,
episodes, it would have been perfect.
yeah,
Like it
it
needed
needed at
more.
least one more episode, maybe two.
Yeah, because we don't see them learn about the spell. We don't see them learn how to use the spell. We don't even see anybody tell them how to do the spell. They just know how
No,
to do it.
like, is it?
And also,
Yeah, is it the? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and also, like you said, we don't get any time with Amit. She's kind of just there, and she's
Yeah,
just a generic movie monster who's like, "I'm gonna destroy the world," and then they beat her, and then that's it. And there's nothing
yeah.
special about her at all. We didn't get an episode
No,
explaining Arthur's backstory or anything like that. Could you have imagined how much cooler the ending payoff would have been if they did a flashback episode that was all of Arthur's memories and why he is the way he is?
I would
That
have loved to see him as Moon Knight in an episode.
Yeah,
Oh,
see, that's what I'm saying. If the
oh,
next episode opened with Moon Knight and you're like, all right, cool, and then the mask comes off and it's Arthur, and you're like, what? And
Yeah,
then you get a whole sequence of him being betrayed by Khonshu and him breaking free and why he worships Amit and what happened to him that turned him that way. And that would have made that emotional scene where he's talking to Amit about how, like, I know I'm not good and, like,
yeah,
I have worthy disciples for you. Don't take me. I'm not worthy. That scene would have had payoff then, but
yeah.
instead
I agree.
everything's so rushed in the finale that you feel like there should have been an episode or two in between. Like, we should have had more
Yeah,
backstory on Arthur. We should have had more backstory on Amit. We don't even know why she's imprisoned. We just know that she's fucking nuts and she wants
no,
to end the world, but we
yeah,
don't know why. Like, they just kind of threw
yeah.
that out there. They were like, oh yeah, by the way, she's in that statue on the shelf over there.
That's a question that I had. Is like, why when they imprisoned all of these gods, they put them on the shelf, but for Amit, they put her in Alexander the Great's tomb. Like, why did she get special treatment?
yeah.
Yeah, and there's like, they designed a compass specifically to find her and all kinds of
Yeah,
stuff. It,
like
it
who
was there.
designed that
Yeah,
compass?
exactly. There's just so much. They had to make a whole fucking riddle for how to get Amit. So she was clearly
Yeah,
something that the gods were afraid of.
yeah.
But they never explained what happened. Like, what did she do to the gods that the gods had to come together and imprison her? Because she very clearly beats the fuck out of all the gods by herself when she gets out.
Oh yeah,
So,
she
like,
bodies all the avatars at least, not the
we
like.
needed a scene of the gods capturing Amit or something, like some kind of flashback. We needed explanations.
Yeah, yeah, like maybe even a scene between Layla and her dad, like because every time she brings up her dad, she like obviously gets really emotional about it. But I would have liked to see her and her dad at least once, so that it has more impact when we find out that Mark Spector's was part of the reason why he got killed.
Yeah, I agree. I would have liked to see some kind of flashback of him with her as a child or something.
I don't know if you want to talk about the little theory that's going. I brought it up to you yesterday. The theory that's going around about Layla. I think some more people have picked up on it
Actually,
after the finale.
honestly, now that we've discussed it off camera and I've looked more at it and I've actually thought about it, I don't even think it's a theory. I think it is what she is.
Ex-
But you could be the one to say it
Especially
if you want.
after I saw the suit. Yeah, well, for Andre, it's not going to mean much, but
Yeah.
basically, people have speculated since like a couple episodes ago that Layla will become a character from the comics known as Scarlet Scarab, and the main reason for that is because the Scarlet Scarab in the comics was his real name was Abdul Fayol, and her Layla's father's name was Abdallah Abdullah Fayoli. That's like very very similar to that name, and people made that connection and were like, "Oh, is he the Scarlet Scarab? Is she gonna become the Scarlet Scarab?" And after that, I started making a few more connections. Last night's episode was like icing on the cake because I was just like, yeah.
Also,
There's so many. Um, because she becomes a superhero, but there's so many different little Easter eggs. The name is one of them. Uh, Another one would be what was it? Oh, the his nickname, her father's nickname for her was Little Scarab. They made it very clear that that was his nickname for him. And her father wore a red scarf in the flashback that we saw in the last episode. Well, episode 5. When we see his dead body, he's wearing a red scarf. And we know that from the conversation she has with Harrow that she made that scarf for him. So that was another thing. Um, she picks up the scarab in the finale. She picks up the little scarab thing, which that could mean nothing, but I thought that was a little interesting. And then basically the icing on the cake though in the finale is when she gets her costume, she actually has a red scarab right on the center of her chest. So to me, yeah, that just means that she's going to become that character.
Okay, so this is official from Collider. I'm looking at it right now.
Yes.
During an exclusive interview with Collider, Moon Knight's director Mohamed Diab addressed Layla's superhero upgrade in the season finale. While Diab reveals that Layla was being referred to on set as the Scarlet Scarab, a Marvel Comics Egyptian
Mm-hmm.
superhero, the character's future was purposefully left open so that Layla could become the Scarlet Scarab in the future, or she could also become a brand new hero introduced exclusively for the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I kind of felt that they were going to go that route. Like, they were going to. Because it seems like they never give her a name, right? So it's very easy. They could just make up a whole new character, and it would be kind of a first for them to just make up a new superhero for the show. I'm gonna say they're probably gonna stick with the Scarlet Scarab thing, but it would be cool.
Yeah, I think that she's going to be Scarlet Scarab as well. Especially because he's
Yeah,
saying the original intention was that she is Scarlet Scarab. They called her Scarlet Scarab on set. That was the idea. The whole
yeah, they were
idea
referring
behind
to
her
her as Scarlet
character,
Scarab.
because they changed her whole character. In the comics, Marc is
Oh yeah,
involved with his wife's father's death, but they have
yeah.
different names, and Scarlet Scarab is
It was
not
like
her
it starts
father.
with an M.
They changed her entire character into Layla, and then they made her name
Yeah,
similar to his on purpose, and they made her Egyptian, and they made her costume have the scarab on it. I'm pretty sure she's Scarlet Scarab. Like, I'm 99.9%
for
sure that's
me,
what they're gonna do.
yeah. So yeah, his wife in the comics is Marlene, and they basically took her whole story, made a new character called Layla, and then made her into. So basically, they mashed two different comic characters together, which isn't the first time they've really done that. They've done that a couple of times in the MCU.
Yeah, Marvel, uh, quite a lot tends to cram a lot of different comic, uh, ideas together. Um,
Yeah,
for example, most recently with Multiverse of Madness, the squid monster that is in the street in the trailer is modeled after
yes.
Shumagorath. But for all promotional purposes, because Marvel does not have the rights to the name Shumagorath, they're calling it Gargantos.
But Gargantos in the comics is a completely different thing, isn't it? Or is
Yes,
that a name they made up?
it's a extremely similar villain. It's another squid type villain that's a big monster that eats people and worlds. Um, but he does not look like Shumagorath.
Yeah,
Shumagorath is the only squid monster that looks like Shumagorath, and they clearly made it look like Shumagorath on purpose. But they couldn't call it that, so they named it Gargantos. So they basically just took
so
some comic book ideas from both sides. So yeah, they basically just did the same thing with Scarlet Scarab, as they took a bunch of characters from the comics, mashed them together, and then just called that Scarlet Scarab. So
yeah.
it's not something that Marvel's not known for. Like, they've done it before.
I get you.
Yeah, you got
I
anything
think
you want to talk about, Andre? Any theories?
Hmm. Any theories? I actually had some theories throughout the show though. Like what is it
yeah.
called? You know how like what is it called? Like certain fight scenes, Mark
Mhm.
doesn't usually fight in a gory way. Like
Yeah.
like you know what I'm saying? Because what is it called? When Steven, was like all of a sudden he was like in a random place, right? Where I guess Arthur and all his like companions are. and then all of a sudden, boom! Like all those enemies are on the ground, and they're all bloody. I was thinking
Right.
that that was Jake's doing the whole time.
Right.
After
Yeah.
like the finale, after that was like Jake's doing, because what um the teleworker told me that he like what is it called? He basically like kills people. I guess that's what he told me. So I'm
Yeah.
guessing like okay, so then his fights should be all gory, like bloody and all that. So I was guessing like okay,
Yeah. That's true.
all the blackouts and fight scenes that Steven was in are all Jake's doing, not Mark's. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
actually not
Exactly. Yeah. There's a couple of times.
that's not a terrible theory. Um, my only issue with it though is that in the first episode we are led to believe that those are the only two personalities, and Mark talks
Yeah.
to him specifically, and Khonshu is talking to him at the same time, and um he says something to Mark specifically, like he says Mark's name. So he knows Khonshu knows that Mark is in there. So
Yeah.
it seems to me like it could be a Jake tease, but the biggest thing we also have to remember is that this was made for TV and it's not adult rating.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
they can't
That is
show
true.
him like slicing everyone's fucking throats in the street and like leaving them
Yeah.
dead there. So
Yeah.
That's what I was
so
gonna say a while ago.
it could be Jake, but it could also just be that they couldn't show Mark killing people in bloody ways, so they had to cut away.
I mean,
Speaking of a Jake theory,
Mm-hmm.
I so I think I've told you about this, Cameron. I'm pretty sure they don't explain it, but I'm pretty sure that the guy that gets him the date with his coworker was Jake and not Mark. Because to me it doesn't make sense. If he's married, yes, trying to divorce, but Mark is married and trying to lay low. It doesn't make much sense to me that he would come in and try and get like a date randomly. I don't think he would do. I think Jake is the one doing that.
oh, that makes
Yeah,
a
that
lot more sense
it
now.
does make more sense that Jake would be the one ruining Steven's life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I think
basically.
he's just way more careless about all this shit.
Yeah. Also, one thing that I wanted to talk about that I had a small theory for that we probably won't see go anywhere now, because if we're unless we do get a season 2 and Marvel's fucking playing everybody.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't be the first time. They told everyone Andrew Garfield wasn't in
Nope.
Spider-Man, so
That is true.
so but the way that they set up the show at the very beginning, there's a little girl who comes into the museum, and I've talked to about this to you guys before, I think.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's a little girl who comes into the museum, and the first thing she goes to is the Pyramid of Giza, which is, we find out
Yeah.
later, is where the gods are. And she puts trash in
true.
there. And then when Steven talks to her, he talks to her about, like, he's trying to like distract her and take her away so he could take the trash out of it and all that. And then he takes her to the sarcophagus and he explains that you need the heart to be judged, and that if you weren't
Right.
judged, you were banished, and if you if you were worthy, you would pass to the field of reeds. And
Yeah.
what she says to him is the part that freaked me out, because once people pointed this out, I was like, "Hey, wait a fucking minute." Cuz this that was either the most aggressive fucking foreshadowing of all time, or that little girl knows something. Because she specifically says, "Did it suck for you getting rejected from the field of reeds?"
Yeah.
So she knew. It wasn't like, you know, like realistically it could just be a coincidence and that it's foreshadowing, but it seems really
It
on
could
the
be like
nose.
a little girl talking shit and that's it,
Yeah.
you know? Like
But my theory is that that little girl, because it's so you would never suspect it. My theory is that
Mephisto.
that little girl is the vessel or avatar for Anubis.
Oh, for Anubis.
Yes, and
Okay.
my reason for that is because Anubis is the Egyptian god of death, and the
Right.
scales that judge you in the afterlife that either damn you to the Duat or allow you to go to the field of reeds, those are made by Anubis. And she knew the outcome of Stephen's life.
But do you think she's too young to become an avatar though?
We don't know. We don't know the rules for that. All we know is that
Yeah.
they just have to be willing to work with the god.
But you
That'd be crazy.
yeah. But me and Karen was thinking about this during at work, because you know how like Anubis or whatever his name is, like he's the god of death and like the scales. But then Arthur has a tattoo of a scale, but it's
Yeah.
praising Amit. So we were also thinking, is Arthur the avatar for Anubis or something like that? But
Yeah, my theory
who
was
knows?
that there was going to be a plot twist where he was working with Anubis the whole time and not
Anubis,
Amit.
that's me. What the hell?
And so
Yeah, there was a
that was a
theory going
possibility.
around that I saw. Yeah, I saw that before the last episode came out, and I was damn near convinced that it could be true because, like, the scale on his arm and the cane, and it would make a lot of sense. Now, obviously, that didn't come true, but it would have been an interesting idea.
Given the fact
I
that
would
this is
hope.
a one season thing, I don't think that's going to happen. As
Yeah.
of now,
Yeah,
I
unless
don't think that that's going to
Marvel is
happen.
really pulling some shit and they're gonna give us a second season.
However, I still think that the Midnight Suns theory is true. I definitely think Marvel's
Oh yeah, I
planning
think he's
something
showing
with all of
everything.
these fucked up characters because
Yeah.
one of the things that supports this theory to me is that there have been non-stop rumors for the last like 2 years that Marvel has been trying to cast whoever their Ghost Rider will be. Ghost Rider is part of the
Yeah.
Midnight Suns. The other theory that I have is that they just got the rights back for the Netflix Marvel characters, which have now moved over to Disney Plus. They're featured
true.
if you have an adult account with no restrictions. Those shows are featured on the homepage for the Marvel series before the Disney Plus shows.
Yeah.
So I am pretty sure that they are wanting fans to see those shows. One of the characters that they just got the
Yeah.
rights back for is the Punisher, who is also a member of the Midnight Suns. Charlie Cox
is
said in
also
an
true.
interview a while back that he would not come back as Daredevil unless they had a part for John Bernthal.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he came back. So it
That's
is
true.
entirely possible that Kevin Feige is planning on making a really dark PG-13 Midnight Suns movie that will feature all those characters teaming up to stop someone. And I think that the reason the Blade movie is coming first is because the Blade movie is going to set up a popular Midnight Suns villain and also a huge Blade villain, Dracula. And I think that the Midnight Suns will come together to stop Dracula and his army of vampires.
I think you might be onto something. Yeah, that would be very fucking cool to see.
And then
Oh,
Imagine that shit.
there's 5 people in Midnight Suns. I didn't know
there's a
that.
lot of people, yeah. It's
Yeah, I know there
a
is.
constantly changing roster, kind of like the Defenders. Like the Netflix
Yeah.
Defenders is a completely different team than the comic book Defenders. Like they have
'Cause
totally different members.
I looked it up. It's like Morbius is in it, but then the other one, the
Yep.
Punisher's in it. I was like, what the hell?
But see, that's what I
Yeah.
was gonna say next. Is maybe if Sony and Marvel continue to work together, and they continue to play nice, we could see Jared Leto's Morbius as part of the Midnight Suns. It's a stretch.
Maybe
The
I
Morbius
wouldn't
movie
count
didn't
on it,
exactly
but
make a
maybe.
killing, so I don't think Marvel's gonna bank on that. But
Yeah.
I would say it's a small chance because Jared Leto definitely
Yeah.
was not the problem with the Morbius movie. If
No.
I trust anyone to handle the character better, it's going to be Kevin Feige. So
Yeah. That's true.
if if he shows up in anything outside of the Sony universe, that's where I would expect to see him. And
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah. I mean, you got a
that would
point.
be badass, honestly, to see Black
Yeah.
Knight, Punisher, Ghost Rider, Moon Knight, all these underrated fucked up characters that kill people going on a mission where they have to murder hundreds of vampires to save the world. That would be cool as
What
fuck.
does
That'd be fucking insane.
what does Blade do?
Blade is a half vampire who is able to walk in the daylight and stuff. He has the same powers as Marvel's vampires, but they're a little weaker because he's not a full vampire. My final question for you guys is this: over under 50%, do you think it's likely or not likely that we get a Midnight Suns movie within the next 5 years? I mean, I think it's fair if we get the Blade movie in the next year or two, and then the next thing we see Blade in
Well,
is
do
Midnight
do we have a
Suns. I
release
think
date for
it's
Blade?
No.
I don't
I don't.
remember. I think they said they slated it for 2023, but we'll have to see if it's
Yeah,
finished
it
by
had to
then.
be moved.
So what do you think, Andre? You think we might see it or we won't see it?
Um, um, to be honest, I don't really know because they're already having movies coming in, and then they're gonna stack up more the next year. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think it's probably like what between 60 to 70%.
Yeah,
Oh no,
usually how
no,
they do it is they'll have like 3 movies a year.
yeah, no, mm, but I don't really know.
So I think it's possible that they're working on Midnight Suns at the same time as they're working on like Fantastic Four and X-Men and all that stuff right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think more than likely Marvel's trying to figure out how to set up their next teams because Kevin
Yeah,
Feige has already said that Avengers Endgame is the last Avengers movie.
yeah,
We'll still see all those characters around, but we're not going to have any more Avengers movies because they're focusing on other things now. So we're probably more than likely going to get the weird teams now, like Defenders and Midnight Suns and X-Men and
I'm
things
down
like
with
that.
that.
Because if you noticed, Marvel is moving in a very weird direction now. Like
Multiverse and Kang and
exactly
all that stuff.
10 years ago, they never would have risked making movies as convoluted as like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness and things like that. Like
Yeah,
they weren't going to be like, "Yo, let's clash a bunch of alternate universes together and explore different realms and like have magic and shit everywhere."
yeah,
Like they wouldn't have done that 10 years ago. But now we have a universe with a bunch of half gods and half vampires, and we have sorcerers and magic and alternate realities, and we have a time travel show with Loki, and we got a
yeah,
Egyptian themed
it's just all
like
getting mixed up now at this point.
yeah, they're finally
yeah,
starting to go weird. The comic geek in me loves
yeah,
it. But
Yeah, because
yeah. I'm really liking what we're seeing so far.
the only thing that worries me about
Just
this
give
is
me
that
Doctor Doom, please.
the more fantastical and the more cosmic that they go with the franchise, the more people they're going to lose. Which is going to that scares me a little bit. And the reason I say that is because the general audience has been trained to expect a certain type of Marvel movie.
Sure.
And I think that
I
this
think it.
new era of Marvel that they're moving towards is going to be for a different type of fan.
I think it all depends on how they move forward with it. Because if Loki didn't lose people's and especially that ending, then I think most people will probably stick around because it's been 10 years. People are gonna be loyal. At least the majority of people. Obviously, there are a few that will get lost, but I think for the majority of the fans, like they're gonna stay loyal to the MCU because they know that they know what to expect, and even if it's a bit different, they're gonna watch it and see how it turns out. And if it's good, then it's good. You
All
got
right.
anything else to say?
I don't think so. I think we pretty much all agree that the finale was rushed. If we don't get another season, it's a little disappointing. If we get another
Yeah.
season, it makes perfect sense. Well, all right then. Thank you for joining us, Andre, for your first
Yeah.
podcast ever. All right.
Yeah.
Comment down below what you guys thought of Moon Knight and its finale, and we'll see you guys next time.
Get this man to 100K. Okay.
Yeah, get me to 100K. Get me to 100K so I could fucking own my own business and not have to work my shitty job anymore.
I wish it were that simple.
I wish you could just ask for subscribers and get them.
Buy him, bro. Just buy him.
No. That's how you get banned real quick. YouTube will be like, "Oh, we noticed you got 38 million subscribers overnight. What's that about?"
Trust me. Like,
What's that about, man?
I'd be like, "Dude, trust me,
30
I'm
different-
just that great, okay? Just
That's great.